there, today I'm going to be showing you 5 new sheet pan dinners, and if you don't know, sheet pan dinners will make your dinner time unbelievably easy at night, so I hope you enjoy it, and let's go start cooking. We're getting kicked off today by making seasoned chicken tenderloins and vegetables. So to begin to cut up our vegetables, I have 3 carrots, 1 large head of broccoli, and a head of cauliflower that I cut into smaller pieces. Now for the seasoning mixture, in this small bowl, I added 1/4 cup of olive oil, next the juice from 1 lemon, and I do want to apologize for my voice. It might sound different. I am fighting off a cold right now, but the next seasoning we're adding in, it's 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning, a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of dried basil, a teaspoon of onion powder, and then 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. This mixture is so flavorful, you gotta trust me. And then I whisked these ingredients all together. I grabbed my sheet pan and lined it with parchment paper, and then I have about 1.5 pounds of chicken tenderloins I added to the sheet pan. Next, I'm adding our vegetables, and I do want to let you know, if you don't care for any of these specific vegetables, you could always use different vegetables to really make it your own. And then I poured the seasoning mixture that we just made up all over the top, and now I'm coating the seasoning mixture in the vegetables and the chicken. This is going to bake in a preheated oven to 400 degrees for about 25 to 30 minutes or until it's cooked. Here's my big plate of dinner. The chicken is seasoned perfectly and so are the vegetables. Everything is nice and tender. I serve this alongside of pasta salad, but you could serve this with any sides that you love. This is also a super easy meal if you want to meal prep it. Now we're making this extremely easy sweet Italian sausage sheet pan meal. To begin, we're starting with our veggies. I sliced 1 red onion into smaller pieces, next 2 large carrots, and then lastly about 1 pound of Brussels sprouts that I halved and I trimmed the ends off of them. I put all of our veggies into this large bowl, and then I'm adding about 3 tablespoons of olive oil right in there, and then I'm adding a tablespoon of this zesty Italian dry seasoning mix. If you don't have this specific seasoning mix on hand, or you can't find it in your store, you could just use a combination of Italian seasoning, garlic powder, onion powder, a little bit of sugar, and then salt and pepper, and that will do. I mixed this all together, and then over to my sheet pan that I lined with aluminum foil. I added our veggies right on there, and I tried to spread them out as even as possible. For the sausage, I'm using 1 pound of sweet Italian sausage links, or you could use mild Italian sausage or hot Italian sausage, whatever you prefer. I scattered them around my sheet pan, and then I sprayed the top with a little bit of avocado oil spray. I baked this in my preheated oven to 425 degrees for about 25 minutes or until the sausage was cooked. Here's what dinner looks like. I didn't serve it with any additional sides, but if you've never tried that sweet Italian sausage from your grocery store, I totally recommend it. We love the flavor in our home, and those vegetables are perfectly tender. Even my little daughter loved the Brussels sprouts. Now we're getting started on this fun Sicilian style pizza. To my electric mixer, or you could use a large bowl, add 5 cups of all-purpose flour, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 1/2 tablespoon of sugar, a teaspoon of yeast. This is the brand of yeast I use, and then 1 3/4 cup of warm water. You are going to mix this all together, and then you will knead it for about 3 to 5 minutes. If you don't have an electric mixer like this, just go ahead and knead it by hand. Once the dough is looking like this, just a ball, you are going to keep it in your bowl and place a kitchen towel over the top. This is going to need to rest in a warm place for about 30 minutes to 90 minutes or until it has doubled in size. Now that it has doubled in size, I floured my countertop with a little bit of all-purpose flour, and I'm placing the dough right on there. I'm going to roll this into a large rectangle. I made sure to generously grease my sheet pan with plenty of olive oil. Now I'm placing our pizza dough right onto the sheet pan. Next, you will form the dough kind of onto the sheet pan and around the edges, just like this. I have my marinara sauce. I found this brand at the grocery store, and we thought it was pretty good, but you could use any type of pizza or marinara sauce you like. I spread that out all over the dough. Next, I'm adding about 2 cups of mozzarella cheese right onto the marinara sauce, and then you could really add any type of toppings you like or have on hand. I kept it pretty simple, just doing pepperoni on that night because that's what my daughter wanted, but like I said, you could do any toppings you like. Next, I added 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese over the pepperoni, and then to make this extra flavorful, I added a dash of Italian seasoning and garlic salt over the top. This will bake in a preheated oven to 475 degrees for about 18 to 24 minutes or until your dough is cooked through and it's golden brown. This Sicilian pizza is the perfect twist on pizza night just because that dough is so simple to throw together and it is really truly good. Here's my daughter. She was trying to be silly for you guys. She loves pizza. Now we're making these sweet and sour meatballs. To get this recipe started, we are going to be making our sweet and sour sauce first. So to the pot on my stove, I added 1/2 cup of apple cider vinegar, 1/2 cup of barbecue sauce. You could use any brand or any type of barbecue sauce you like, 1/3 cup of brown sugar, 1 teaspoon of dry ground mustard, next a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce, and then lastly, 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. You are going to whisk these ingredients all together very frequently and bring this mixture up to a simmer. Now that we have our sauce simmering, it's time to add in our cornstarch slurry to thicken it up. Our cornstarch slurry is just a tablespoon of cornstarch and water that I whisked together in that little bowl. I added it in and then I continued to whisk this for an additional minute or two or until it thickened up. Now we're going to be removing about 1/3 cup of the sauce, and then we are going to be saving the rest of the sauce for the end. You just wait and see. Now to begin on the meatballs, I have 1 pound of lean ground beef in this bowl. To the ground beef, I'm going to be adding 1/4 cup of plain panko breadcrumbs, or you could use regular style breadcrumbs, whatever you prefer. Next, add in your 1 egg, followed by 2 tablespoons of milk, a tablespoon of Worcestershire sauce. For the seasonings, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of onion and garlic powder. Mix this to combine. Go ahead and set the meatball mixture to the side. I pulled out my sheet pan and I lined it with parchment paper. In this glass bowl, I have about 4 medium golden potatoes that I cubed into small cubes, or you could use red potatoes, whatever you prefer. Just don't use russet potatoes because russet potatoes will take quite a while to bake in the oven, so they just won't turn out. Next, I added 4 cups of fresh broccoli. I'm drizzling 2 tablespoons of olive oil over the top. Next, you will season it with 1/2 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. I gave this a little stir to make sure that the veggies were coated in the seasonings and the oil. I pushed the vegetables to the side. Now I'm rolling the meatball mixture out into large golf ball size meatballs. Now you will want to brush the 1/3 cup of sweet and sour sauce that we saved from earlier all over the top of the meatballs. This is going to go in a preheated oven to 375 degrees to bake for about 20 to 25 minutes or until your meatballs are cooked. Once out of the oven, I plated our dinners up, and if you remember the sweet and sour sauce that we left in the pot, I actually rewarmed it over my stove while they were cooking, and if your sauce gets too thick, you could always thin it down with about 1 tablespoon or 2 of water. I poured the sauce all over the meatballs and the vegetables. This meal is outstanding, and if you wanted to make this dinner even simpler to throw together, you could always use frozen meatballs as a substitute to the homemade meatballs. Now we're making this beautiful barbecue chicken with potato wedges and corn. To get this one started, in this little bowl, I added 1 cup of barbecue sauce. Again, any type of barbecue sauce, any brand will work. Next, a tablespoon of honey. Lastly, about a tablespoon of lime juice. The lime juice and the honey will kick this regular old barbecue sauce up a ton of notches. I whisked this all together and then I set it to the side. In this little bowl right here, I have about 1.5 pounds of golden potatoes that I cut into kind of wedges. I did cut them into thin wedges so they cook nicely. Next, I have this frozen corn I got from my grocery store. I'm using 3 half pieces of the corn. I drizzled a tablespoon of olive oil over the top, and I sprinkled the top of everything with a dash of salt and pepper. Next, you will stir the oil and the seasoning into the potato wedges and the corn. To the center of my sheet pan, I'm adding 2 large chicken breasts. You could always use more or less chicken depending on your preference. Next, for the barbecue sauce, I actually reserved 1/4 cup of the barbecue sauce before I started pouring it all over the chicken for the end. But for the remaining barbecue sauce, I poured it and brushed it all over both sides of the chicken. This baked on 375 degrees for about 35 minutes or until my chicken was cooked. Here's dinner ready to enjoy. Those potato wedges and the chicken were cooked so perfectly. Right before the chicken was through cooking, I poured the reserved barbecue sauce all over the top of it. This is just a really nice, simple meal. I have so many more sheet pan videos like this on my channel, so make sure you're subscribed down below the video so you don't miss any more in the future. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.